Next, we'll move on to momentum building source 2, maintaining momentum. Once you've made the bold move, you enter the messy middle. The novelty wears off and the real work begins. To keep from stalling, you need more than just a good idea. You need the internal tracks to run on. And what do I mean by internal tracks? These are the pre-built rails of systems, mindsets, and habits that allow your work to continue moving forward even when your initial energy begins to fade. This season, my guests identified 4 powerful ways to build these internal tracks, and I'm going to share those with you right now. Track number 1 is automated systems. This is about creating infrastructure that operates if you aren't physically present to push it. For Erin Fortin, this track was the reason her photography business thrived during her 6-month medical recovery.
I had the stroke in July of 2024. I was on medical leave until February of 2025. I was gone from EFP for 6 months. And the reason why EFP continued to serve as expected, deliver as expected, and the business has even come out stronger on the other end, is because of the power of the systems I had built leading up to that medical emergency and from delegating and trusting your team. In my line of work as a brand photographer, I have client onboarding calls, right? Our consult calls. And then I do strategy and design prep for all of our commercial brand photo shoots. And then I have scheduling of the actual photo shoot itself. I have communication after the photo shoot and leading up to it, reminder emails and confirmations of where you have to be when, styling advice, shot list, mood board, all that information and communication that goes into your brand strategy. Touch points afterwards, and then the gallery delivery and communication thereafter. All of that is automated in my business through the power of different platforms that I use.
Track number 2 is the failing forward mindset. This second internal track ensures that when you hit a wall, and you will, you don't just stop. Instead, you iterate. Michelle Bayo reminds us that even the giants of industry, the biggest of the big, like the Ubers, the Amazons of the world, use this track to grow. If they fail forward to succeed, we should treat our setbacks as necessary data for our next move too.
I think when you start something new that pushes you forward, if you believe in it, you'll continue to push yourself forward and continue to learn. And I think my aha moment was I had a gentleman in Singapore who worked at Citi for 20 years, who's now in DeFi and blockchain. And he said it was the best course he'd ever taken and did a whole review video on it. And you're the master chef and you're teaching me little aspects that are helping me see this whole landscape. And it was the biggest compliment I think I could have ever received. And I think people, when they push themselves, there is validation, but it's the nervousness of not wanting to fail forward because we never want to fail. But I think what we don't realize is Amazon fails forward, Uber fails forward. Everyone has to take a risk and then iterate. But that's the only way to grow.
Track number 3 is measuring incremental compound progress. We often lose momentum because we are looking for a single pinnacle moment rather than noticing the slow, steady climb. And I always come back to one of my favorite quotes that the joy is in the journey, not in the destination. Tyler Hakes emphasized that the most sustainable momentum comes from looking at these small compound effects over time.
It's about progress. It's about measurement. The big is having an idea of what is the incremental success that we're seeing, even if it's not an overnight sensation. It's not like we went viral on day one and everything exploded. I think it's about looking at the incremental effects and the compound over time. And for me, that's what's exciting, is to be able to look at that and say, okay, well, this pace, if we keep doing this, we can expect to happen in 3 or 6 or 12 months from now. So I think that, for me, that's what's motivating, and is to see some kind of movement, see the chart going up.
And a practical way to stay on this track is the kudos folder. And a couple of my guests this season talked about the kudos folder strategy to remind them of all of the progress and the small wins they've accumulated along the way. And you should do this too to maintain your momentum when that messy middle rears its ugly head.
Remember who you are. Remember what you've done. Remember all your successes. I personally keep a kudos folder on my email that, like, when I'm having a bad day, I always check that out, right? So just always remember the great things that you have accomplished. And one little blip that may be negative does not define who you are.
The fourth and final track is establishing non-negotiable requirements. Momentum is often drained by toxic or misaligned environments. And Genevieve Dozier taught us that to stay moving in the right direction and going in the direction of your goals and dreams, you have to define what you require from your bold move, not just what you expect. This is a really interesting insight to learn from her. And for her, she talked to me about how this meant that she needed mutual trust, respect, and support from her employer. But here's the most critical part of this track. What do you do if those requirements aren't met? Genevieve's recommendation for anyone feeling stuck is that you have to be willing to leave or pivot. She argues that the relationship that you have in your bold move is actually a two-way street, meaning you get the opportunity to say, no, this isn't working. And if an environment doesn't align with your values or support the lifestyle you need to thrive, you can take a step back and change your mind and go in another direction. And this just isn't for corporate climbers who are being hired by employers. This is for any bold move. So, for example, if you're launching a business, your requirements might be for your partners and your clients. If a client constantly drains your time or disrespects your expertise, you have to be willing to fire them to make room for the right ones. And if you are pursuing a major personal feat, like Simone Canego, who was going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, your requirements are for a support system. If your social circle mocks your goal or tempts you to check out of your pursuit when you need to be checking in, you might have to be willing to leave those relationships for the season to protect your focus. By refusing to conform to a situation that drains you, you stop wasting your mental energy on a bad fit and free it up for your next bold move. This decisive action acts as a guardrail, ensuring your momentum is always directed toward an environment that fuels your growth rather than one that stalls it. Okay, here's another opportunity for you to hit pause so you can reflect on these questions from the momentum audit I'm going to share with you right now. Question number 1 is, have you set up your day so your work is the easiest thing to do? In other words, have you created templates or automated the repetitive parts of your bold move so it can run even when you aren't at your best? Or so that you can be doing the things you love best and you can let the system do the work that you don't like for you. Question number 2, are you practicing failing forward like the pros? When you hit a setback, are you treating it as iteration data or are you letting it define your stopping point? Question number 3, are you tracking the small wins during the journey? Instead of waiting for the pinnacle moment that we all are striving for, are you celebrating the small incremental wins and stacking them in a place you can revisit? To remind yourself, of course, of all the progress you've already made and all the successes that you've achieved along the way just to get to where you are today. And question number 4, are your requirements being met? This is a chance for you to get really honest. If your current environment, be it a job, a partnership, or a social circle, is draining your momentum, what is one step you can take toward a plan B today?